5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Wheel straight, put on the brake.
In-depth race recaps.
Coming to the line, Ryan Blaney's gonna do it!
Pit stops and strategy breakdown.
Way to stick with it, buddy. Proud of you. Yeah, man, really good quality in there. Good job.
Fantasy racing results and insights.
Hey, driver, great job there, bud. Hey, boss.
Your weekly destination for everything Ryan Blaney and Team 12.
Looking forward to seeing you down the victory lane.
This is the Team Blaney podcast.
I'm still Team Blaney.
Welcome, everyone, to episode 213 of the Team Blaney podcast. My name is Adam Rogers, and alongside me, as always, is co-host Steve Mez. This week, we are here to break down Ryan Blaney's run in the Cookout Clash at Bowman Gray Stadium. Steve, welcome back to what is now officially our second episode of 2026. We did come on a few weeks ago, right after they announced the new chase format, to go through that and give our opinions and everything on that. And we'll probably do that again maybe next week if we do a season preview show too. But here we are here to talk about the race weekend that would never end for the Clash, the second Clash that they've held at Bowman Gray Stadium. Last year went off amazing. The race was fantastic. It was a challenge for Ryan. He went from the back to the front. The weather was like unseasonably warmish for that area of the country. That didn't work out this year, did it?
It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. It was just a tale of two cities, right? I mean, the opposite it was. I tell you what, they got, and what people don't realize is that was the second snowstorm to hit the area. That wasn't even the first. There was one actually, a week earlier that, the one that gripped the country basically, and they were digging out of ice and that one. But then, literally, what was it, 10 to 11 inches in that little area. You drive an hour away, and it was only 2 or 3 inches. So it was just an extreme thing. And the people who live there did a really good job of digging out. They for what they had to deal with and dealing with 2 storms in a short time period. I'm in Northeast Ohio here, and we didn't see anything from that second storm that they saw. Now I'm still digging out from the first one because we got it way worse that time around. But God bless them for getting anything in this week. I mean, doing it pretty much properly. There's one little thing I'm going to have a tiff with when we talk about weepers, but for the most part, they did everything they could to get that place ready to do something, and they got it in last night. Whether even though the weather tried to throw snow at them and sleet at one point, so.
Yeah, things got crazy, and it's definitely been an interesting few weeks for everyone out here on the East Coast. And I would say, thoughts and prayers for me because we've been dealing here in Florida with some it's not unseasonably because it's usually a little bit cooler this time of year, but it actually was the other day the coldest morning we've had in 16 years in Florida, which is actually almost the exact amount of time that I've lived down here. But it got into the low 20s. Yeah. To where we actually had to worry about pipes freezing because our homes aren't built, especially in Central Florida here and further south. Our homes are not built to withstand like temperatures like I was used to growing up in Ohio. So that's been very interesting. And then we went for several days in the 20s and things like that. Yeah. But maybe a little bit of snow flurries just north of my house here, but nothing like what they got in North Carolina. Nothing like what you guys deal with every single winter up there.
You had iguanas freezing.
Yeah, the iguanas are falling out of the sky. It was just insane.
Falling out of the sky, they're freezing. And then they have an outdoor hockey game in Tampa Bay, and they had to heat the ice because it got so cold. The way they did this ice, I guess it got so cold that the ice would crack if they let it get too cold. So they actually had to literally heat the ice at a Tampa Bay outdoor hockey game. So yeah, it was really crazy.
So it has been interesting for sure. So because of all the changes, so the Clash was supposed to kick off, the weekend was supposed to kick off on Saturday with practice and qualifying. And then Sunday was going to be, I think, the last chance race and the Clash itself. By Saturday, they had already pushed everything, I think, to Sunday. And then before Sunday, they decided we're going to push it to Monday. And then by Monday, they're like, nope, it's going to go to Wednesday. And they actually, I think by Sunday, everything was cleared out again. But like you were saying, a second snowstorm comes through, dumps even more snow. And that's really what pushed everything back. And within the stadium, it looked like things were going to be okay. It was more about the roads and everybody being able to travel to and from Charlotte and beyond, fans from beyond to actually get there. So with all of that, normally there would have been heat races. That would have been part of the Saturday show. Heat races, even before, once the weather impacts were starting to happen, when they were going to turn it into a one-day show for Sunday, they scrapped the heat races. So they continued on with that format. So it was a little bit different this year in that the top 20 guys qualified into the race through straight up pole qualifying. There's a 21st position for a provisional as well. We know about the provisional because Ryan's had to fall back on that a couple of times during between the LA running of this race and then last year as well. So the format changed up a little bit. Still the same racing that they've had there the last couple of years, but what we missed was like the storylines, I thought, because last year, Burt Myers, who's like a local Bowman Gray favorite, that was like all the story last year. Him and one of the other guys, I'm forgetting his name, because they were going to have a chance to race their way in through the heats, and that was going to be a big deal. They didn't even get a chance to do that. He comes out there in a slow car, definitely doesn't qualify, and struggles in the last chance qualifier. So I felt like beyond being robbed of like the full show, we were robbed a little bit of the storylines that kind of went along with this when it came out last year.
Yeah, heat races would have helped those guys a ton because they would have started near the back of a heat race, but they would have only had to pass a guy or two maybe within those heat races, finishing the top 3 or whatever it was, or fourth. And they didn't get a chance to do that. So they were pretty much eliminated before the whole thing even started. But last chance qualifier, ended up pretty good.
So do you have to dust off your old notebook from last year to take notes for this race, or did you get a brand new shiny one for this year? And did you take notes? I didn't even ask. So
brand new,
red. All right, ready to go.
Tons of notes.
Let's do it.
You can go one way or the other when you do this type of thing. You can just shut it down and just watch and pay attention. But I can't. That's just the way I think that's the way I'm. And it probably keeps my wife from wanting to kill me because then I'd be bothering her if I wasn't doing this. So.
Yeah, and one last thing to interject. So if this is anyone's first time to listening to the Team Blaney podcast, this is a short version of kind of the bread and butter of what we do every week. We watch the race. We both watch the race with the scanner audio and the in-car camera when it's working. Steve watches it very intensely. Takes notes throughout, notes strategy things. There were no pit stops really here. There's a halfway break and something else we'll talk about that happened along the way. So if, in case something wasn't shown on TV or wasn't, reported, something that we heard on the scanner, that's kind of some of that information that we follow along with throughout the race that brings it straight to fans of Ryan, Team Penske, Team 12. And that's kind of what we do every week. We're going to do that all season long. We've done it for the last 5 seasons. We're into season 6 now of the show. So if it's your first time, welcome. And you get a little bit of a taste of what we do from week to week.
Yeah, I'm hopefully, you enjoy the information because we do find out some things and it's kind of cool. And we, like I said, if it's the first time you're ever doing this, we not only find out some things, but every once in a while I can get a question answered too before we broadcast and find out some even more information from the inside, which is great. So yes, was in the second practice group. They split up into 2 groups here. So let's start off with practice qualifying. The first time out was P7 overall, and so close with this distance that they're running. It's 0.062 back of first, right? Which was the 1 car at that point. They ran 34 laps in that first session. Second time out, jumped all the way to P2. And mind you, this, when I say jump to, it took 8-10 laps to the tires heated up, but then they start clicking off these laps. And he was 0.026 back of the 20 car who jumped up to first. But when you look at it at the end, best 5 and 10 lap averages, second best 15 lap, third best 20 and 25 lap, all things that we see him do every year, where they're set up for, as long as we're not seeing a lot of cautions, we get a long green flag run, we know he's going to pass a bunch of people. Then they split the qualifying up into 6 individual groups to go out, so there's less guys on the track, and they give them, what was it, 4 or 5 minutes or whatever to run laps. And he was in that last group, and just sometimes, this was one of those ones that'd be great to be in the front, but I always enjoy him being in the back just because I know that I'm going to watch in-car camera and see a lot of passing. But he finished 16th overall, and the 5 got the pole. So, it's kind of a.
I mean, what we saw though is just the typical speed that we see. We did see, and they noted this on the qualifying broadcast as well, that the 12 seemed to have some really decent short run speed, but still the classic long run speed that they're known for.
Yeah.
And even though qualifying 16th, Kevin and Clint and Mike, they still kind of talked about the fact that, he's come through the field before multiple times in these clash races on the short tracks between LA and here and there. So they weren't going to be surprised him coming from 16th. And that's much further up than he has started recently in this race.
Yeah, in this race. So, the last chance qualifier, of course, has everybody outside of that top 20. I believe the 48 was going to get the provisional unless he finished first or second. And really what it come down to is the 21 was kicking everybody's butt. And who was the 7 racing with the 6, 7 and the 6 and the 16 were the 3 cars racing it out at the end for that second place, because it was first place gets to advance and second place gets to advance. And great little collision kind of a thing at the end. I think some people were mad at AJ, but AJ was trying to knock him up, see if he knocked the one and the other one knocked the other one out, and he could have went underneath them. But what he did more than anything else is Daniel did a great job of keeping it straight after he got hit, and he passes the 6 with the LaJoy, and ends up in a pretty cool ending to see who makes it to the race.
And, I wanted to say, just talking about that in general, because of the way the night goes and the way people's reactions are after the race, that classic NASCAR fan reaction to things, was the racing last year. I said it earlier, racing last year over that weekend was fantastic. If all we got yesterday was the last chance qualifying race, it was great. The conditions were great. The drivers at the front that were battling out there, to make it in, we're doing a great job. They weren't necessarily like destroying each other. I noticed. So they come into this race with the new short track package, which is the 750 horsepower. They came in with what they've said this a lot over the last couple years, but the softest left side tire they've ever run on a short track. So that was something else that was different too. So higher horsepower, which is supposed to result in some more wheel spin or something, depending on how hard you get on the throttle. Softer tire that maybe, because the weather conditions didn't matter, especially the second half of the main event, didn't matter because they weren't on that tire anymore. And I thought the racing was good in what you saw. So the clash at LA, especially with the earlier version of the next gen car and how it was, and maybe how they were setting them up then, it was really hard to do a classic bump and run. Like, you had to really just destroy the guy in front of you to move him. There was a lot of actual tap and move people up and out of the groove. And again, I'm not sure what the magic sauce was to make that happen, but it was very encouraging to see that. And I think it's just trending this way because we have started to see that at Martinsville as well. Whereas when they first went to Martinsville with the next gen car, it was very much they were too stiff. You couldn't move guys. So I don't know if it's the horsepower. I don't know if it's just me hoping and being excited to see racing again, but the actual racing in the LCQ was fantastic.
Yeah, I made a mistake. I meant to say Austin. I don't know why I said Daniel there. I mean Austin, the 2 cars.
Oh yeah, Daniel actually qualified in on time. That's right. Yeah,
Daniel qualified on time, and I had Daniel. I've got Daniel and Corey LaJoy on the brain because of the different things over the off season and so forth. But Daniel's, we're going to find out later on when you read off how things did pretty well with this whole thing. Did really well for his first race with them. But Austin making it was great because I'm going to try and do it on TikTok. I'm thinking like every Wednesday or Thursday, I'll get your prediction. I'll get my wife Kate's prediction, and I'll put up a little thing with the Team Blaney prediction for the week going into the race. You had who'd you have? You had Christopher Bell. She had Austin Cindric, and then
Yeah.
I got to be. I told my wife I get to be the homer. Great, I get to be. I pick Ryan, but so we get to the race, and lap 4 all the way up to P12. So, once you get here's the fun part: outside line and inside line, right? On dry conditions with the way this track is, you got to be on the inside, and you have to get underneath people and move them, right? And if you're quicker than them after a lap or two, so on and so forth. Later on in the race, you want to be on the outside line because that's where the wet is. But by lap 9, P14, as the 77 and the 9 kind of pass, so he finally gets to the low lane, and at lap 20, P14, and it's about 6 seconds back of the lead. So that kind of worries me a little bit because you don't want to be right, getting caught by the leader at some point with these 14, 15-second laps. But lap 20, lap 32, I'm sorry, gets inside the 22 a little bit. And this is something that's fun for watching the in-car cameras. He tries to race the 22 cleanly for about 8 or 10 laps, but it's like, you know what? He's holding me up. And these guys do have a little bit of an understanding that they can tell when they're losing like distance to the guy in front of them and somebody comes up behind them, that sooner or later they have to, let one go or else they're going to get crushed, So at lap 35, he passes the 22, get to 13, and he does it on the outside. So Joey basically gives him the pass.
Yeah.
At lap 40 here, we get a caution for debris in turn 1. Now, Tim calls this a TV timeout, by the way. It's kind of funny he said that. They also brought, I think this is the first time to bring the jet dryers out. And this is what I was going to say earlier about the weepers, because they said something about weepers and moisture, and there weren't weepers in the sense that some of the big tracks that we go to, water and moisture comes up through the holes. No,
coming up through the asphalt. Yeah.
What it was, and this is one of those things they probably should have done a little differently, is they cleared all that snow, but then they packed it all against the retaining the inside, the wall of the safer barrier. So if it got warm enough or enough heat was coming off that track, or even the jet dryers got close enough where they got some heat to it, they were melting that snow and it was just driving right up underneath, onto the track. So that was the only thing. And I understand it. You're clearing snow going down the stands, but when you get to the bottom, you got to put it in barrels and get it out of there. You got to put it somewhere else. You can't just stuff it against the wall. Anyways, that's just a little thing I saw. So a choose cone comes up, first one of the day here. And the 5 is the leader outside, and Ryan ends up on the inside from P13. So this is a good thing. I think the guys out front were 2 of the Hendrick cars, so they're doing a little okie dokie up there where Larson gets in front, and I think Byron was following him. So we start at lap 41 here with a 22 on the outside. Mind you, none of the laps that happen under caution actually count, which is great, because this thing would have been over in about half hour if they do it that way. They would have ran like 600,000 caution. So we get to lap 50 here, still P13 running behind the 9 car. 77 and 1 are in front of the 9, and they're side by side, and kind of like causing the 9 to be hung up a little bit. At lap 51 here, we get by the 1 to get to 12th. At lap 52 here, the 23 spins. And what happened is the 1 shipped Ryan into the 23. And Ryan says, the wheel's fine. They're up to P11. He gets on the radio, I think, literally, and wants Tim to apologize over there because he wasn't trying to hit the 23. And on the other hand, he's like, why is the 1 like, bonsai?
The 1, so the 1 was going. I described this in our Discord race chat. I was like, the 1 was committed to bumping Ryan. But he got a little more help because the 22 actually pushed him at the same time as well. So it was like a 4-car chain reaction, and Bubba ended up getting the brunt of it and spun around. So, but and I can't remember if this is one of those incidents, but this happens a few times to Ryan over the night, to where he has to like slow down because of somebody that spun in front of him. Now, he was a little bit more involved in this one than others that
Yeah.
I'm thinking of, especially the one with the 11 later on.
Mhm.
But man, if I have a beef about the night, is timing and scoring. And Ryan even mentions this on the radio later on when something awful happens.
Yeah.
But like he would slow after like, you know, a wreck had happened, and slow because the track was blocked or something else like that. And like a bunch of people would go by and he wouldn't get his spot back. And it was just like
Yeah.
driving me insane. I know it's an exhibition race, but it was still frustrating to see that happen
Yeah.
basically all night long.
Yeah. So next choose here, 5 taking the inside for the leader, and Ryan at P11 takes the inside. He's behind the 77 with the 1 to his outside here. Restarting lap 54. At lap 56, we're 3 wide, but up to 10th. Inside of the 45 car. Lap 58, passing the 45, P9. Lap 62, does the bump and run on the 17 to get to P18. Lap 69 here, the 77 bumps the 20, and both get by. They both get by him, get to P7. Lap 72 here, the 24 takes the lead out front. So lap 76 here, we're passing the 11 to get the 6th. At lap 77, a caution for the 2. So this next choose here, the leader takes the inside. Ryan's in P6, but takes the outside here. He's got the 77 to his inside. I kind of want to take note of those kind of things because you see certain guys. The 77 was, they give him good credit on TV, but he was being a bull in a china shop, whether it was wet or dry. And that's how he ended up in the front, and that's how he ended up in the back too later on. Restart lap 77 here. At lap 80, we sort to P7 here, getting to the low lane finally. At lap 82 here, passing the 5. The 5 went backward all of a sudden. And Ryan's up to 6th. And what we saw was the 5 hit the wall actually coming out of one of the turns at one point.
He
At
did
lap
it
90.
multiple times all night long.
Yeah.
Kept hitting that. And I know the wall is weird there on the front stretch,
Yeah.
like coming out of 4, but he just over and over all night, he kept hitting it.
It widens out at that point. I think that's part of what, So lap, where we at? Lap 90 here, the 77 and door to door in front of the 11. So we're behind the 11, but we got those 2 guys battling in front of the 11. And lap 93 here, we passed the 11 to get to 5th. Lap 96, we actually passed the 77. We're all the way up to P3 here, with the 54 and the 19 are literally battling for the lead out front here. And we get to lap 100 here, and the 54 is leading at the break. Ryan, is P4 at this point. I think it was 19 to 24, and then Ryan. So, he's in the top 5.
Best car on track.
Best car on track. We know, under the dry conditions.
Yes.
So he says it's very similar to last year. The drive off was better than most. So he could, once again, he's telling him basically off other guys what, and then this freezing rain starts to fall. Boyer does a TV interview with Ryan. He's sitting in the car behind the, I don't know what that is, a gymnasium there. They're on the other side of, and there, Clint uses the word hot rod once.
Yeah.
And then Ryan uses it too. It's to kind of like, I don't know if he literally was kind of mocking him a little bit. But next weekend for the Daytona 500, if hot rod is not your drinking game, I don't know what would be, because you will be drunk by the time the pre-race show is over with that guy. So
here's what I'm going to say about what we'll talk about for the next 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Is this, and I've done this before over like lots of other things that have happened, like, and I just lament as a sad NASCAR fan. It's like every time they try to do something big, like something crazy always has to happen. Like the race has already been postponed for 4 or 5 days, all the way to this Wednesday thing. The first half of the day is fantastic with the practice qualifying LCQ. The first 100 laps of this race were very entertaining. Definitely biased because Ryan's driving his way up through the field, has the best car on track. And this doesn't just happen to NASCAR. This happens to Ryan a lot. Something completely out of their control from left field. So weird. Always like comes in and just like ruins things. Like, and just like essentially takes away what could have been a runaway win probably for the 12, barring like crazy restarts and just getting destroyed by somebody from behind. But then
Behind,
NASCAR
right.
itself wants to do this big event, make a big splash. They're in prime time now on a Wednesday night when there's not a lot to do. And then Mother Nature is like, you know what? We know you've been delayed for 4 or 5 days, but we're not done with you yet.
Yeah.
And here comes the rain and the sleet, and then eventually you'll talk about wet weather tires, and
Yeah. So
just takes it out of their hands at this point. And it's
yeah,
just so frustrating when that happens.
changes everything, right? So they send the cars back on the track while it's sleeting. They send them back to the garage, and they said it should only last about 10 minutes. The storm was going to pass through, and at that point, it becomes obligated that everybody has to put wet weather tires on. And we'll talk about. I don't know if I've got it in my notes later on, but there's a change later on too that should have happened, or they should have let them do. But that's a whole other thing. So at this point, everybody has to put the wet weather tires on because the surface is wet, considered wet. The cars go back on the track. Tim says he's not sure if it's rain or if it's ice. Then there's a discussion, about it being the first sleet race that they've ever been involved in, basically. They're talking about the outside lane being a little smoother, but the inside has all the rubber. But in these conditions with these tires, you want to be in the higher lane.
Yeah, and part of that too, the way the track is not like super banked, but it is like slightly to a couple degrees, because if you look at the inside, there's a bunch of drains. So the inside lane is where a lot of water is going to pool up as well. So
they run a bunch of pace laps, but then they send them back. They're basically waiting for the system to come through, and then they send out the dryers to kind of like get rid of some of the standing water. So it's just a wet surface, not a puddle-ridden surface.
Here's my question, and we talked about this a little bit, but I feel like if they would have just taken another 15 minutes and blown off even more water and dried the track as much as they could have, we could have had maybe 5 fewer cautions than what ends up happening, right? Like, that's all I would say. Like, I know they were up against this TV window. They're supposed to be done at 8 p.m. So what ends up happening is they actually even bump the TV window back and the Masked Singer back to 9 p.m. at least. And so I know they're nervous. They're trying to get this in, and we have these wet tires, so everything should be fine. But like, just take another 10 minutes or so, because eventually, after they get going for a while, it dries up to what I think it could have been, and things were much better by then. So that's all I'll say on that.
Yeah. So they do come back out here. Tim tells Ryan there might be more water up high, and he does tell them they're going to choose a double file restart, because there was talk, I think, of a single file restart even. The leaders of the 54 taking the inside, and the 19 takes the outside. The 24 takes the outside. And Ryan was the fourth guy to choose, and he took the outside too. And I kind of was like, well, I think it's the right move just based on that's where all the grip's going to be. So whoever's on the inside, they might freight train those guys. But from what I heard and saw, some of those guys on the inside were able to rub up against the guy on the outside and kind of stay with them a little bit. So he ends up with the 77 and the 20 inside of him. They're restarting at 101 here, and right away we get a caution for the 5, the 11, the 60 was spinning. We're still P5 at this point. So now the next choose is the 19, taking the outside. Ryan takes the outside. He's in the third row. And the 20's inside of Ryan again, and then we're restarting lap 102. Like the next lap, the 88 gets by, and then the 104 here, we're all the way back to P10. Cars are going by on the outside. We kind of got trapped on the inside. Something happened. Lap 105, P12. Lap 107, back to 13th. Everyone literally is running top. The 19 is leading. Lap 110, we did pass get passed by the 3. We're into 14th. At lap 115 here, Ryan talks about hit the car, but then he points out the driver.
He's like, yeah, maybe it's me.
Yeah, it's me. As we hear later on, he rebounds from that a little bit too, from those feelings.
And this isn't, and this is like, and we've seen this before with him fall through the field when it's gotten to wet conditions. He's not the only one. Denny Hamlin has openly said he's terrible at racing in the wet. Christopher Bell's another one, and he fell through the field as well. And so it's just some guys' styles maybe, because some were
Well,
able, like the 77 and others were able to stay up front and got like to where they could, but
it's
and this is what I'm talking about, like where something out of left field
yeah.
happens and takes it out of control. And they made a really great point, and I know you don't always have the volume up too high on the broadcast, but
Mhm.
Kevin Harvick during one of the caution breaks said, in other series, Formula One and IndyCar, whatever elsewhere, um, those guys, because he's talking about like SVG and maybe even Connor, who's raced a lot of sports car stuff, like being able to adapt to this much better, and they went like straight to the front.
Yeah.
He points out that those other series and in sports car racing, they practice in the rain, they practice in wet conditions.
Yeah.
The only time these NASCAR stock car drivers are under these conditions have been like because they're desperate and they've started this wet weather package,
Yeah.
or
That's
back when they would run in the rain or in the damp on road courses. So
yeah.
that's about it.
That was the point I was about to make about when you talk about Ryan in it, is all those guys are, it's all learning curve, right? As this
Yep.
race goes on, look what ends up happening, right? Some of the guys who jump out there early in these conditions, they fall back because the other guys within that learning curve get better, and all of a sudden they start passing guys, and so. Um, but we're at by lap 120, we get a caution for the 21. So Ryan is P13 at that point. The leader is the 19 taking the outside, Ryan taking the outside. Restart lap 120, stuck behind the 3, and because we get stuck behind the 3, we get stuck, and all the way back to 21st. And at lap 122, we get a caution, and the 2 had a flat tire. Back in P21, the next choose Ryan is P20 on the outside, behind the 11. Restart lap 122. Lap 123 past the 11 to get to 18th. At lap 126 passes the 20 up to 17th, with the 77 taking the lead at that point. At lap 130, the 54 spins, no caution. The field by him more or less, and he gets it turned around. At lap 135, the 11 passes us. We're back to 18th. At lap 136, spinning out the 23. At lap 138 passes the 2. Oh, we passed that. Let me spin out. I'm sorry. Spinning out and going back to 23rd. That's what I meant to say there. Yeah, no caution. And hurry up, get it straightened back out. Lap 138, we passed the 2 to get to 22nd. And at lap 140, we get the 11. And we get lapped at that point.
Which
it happened right in front of us. Yeah, we get T-boned into the 11.
This is where I have a problem.
Leader goes by, right? And should be lucky dog.
He's not in the incident. He never hits the 11. He stops for him because the track is blocked, and they let him go a lap down. Like, it's just insanity.
But
and
here's the funny part.
Ryan's frustrated. This is like the first moment of the year already where there's a little frustration on the radio. And they make up after that. They talk about it under the caution, but like I couldn't believe it, because this is like the second time during the race where he is slowed to avoid, or because the track is blocked and he's lost a bunch of positions, or in this case, they just put him a lap down. And I'm like, and I know it's an exhibition, and I didn't want to get frustrated, but I was actually angry, and I'm like, I needed to step back. I'm like, all right, I just got to realize this race doesn't mean anything, but this is insane.
You would think that the rules wise, of course, the guy who caused the caution never is allowed to be the lucky dog, correct? But Ryan didn't cause the caution. He was behind the guy that caused the caution. He got stuck there. The leader went by him.
Yeah.
At that point, if you're using scoring loops and so forth, then Ryan should be the lucky dog then, right? He's the first car lap down.
I just don't know. It's like they didn't know what they were doing up there.
They give the 2 the lucky dog at that point. So I don't know if the 2 went by him at that point too. I'd have to go back and watch that.
Yeah, the 2 gets it. And I made the comment earlier, like the 60 was in the very first caution after they came back from when they went to the wet tires. Spins out is like the cause of that whole like melee, and essentially kept his track position. And I was like, what's going on there? And then he ends up racing all the way to the front, and then things go really well for him by the end of the night. But I'm like, but really, Ryan just stops to avoid, the blocked track, and then they put him a lap down. It was just, I don't know what was going on with the officiating, but it was not, things were not adding up.
Yeah. So the restart lap 140 here. The 77 is the leader. He's now racing the 11 for the lucky dog. And then we get a caution right away for the 3. We're P22, but the 11 gets the lucky dog. Now, this point, Jonathan gives him an option because you're still lap down. And I guess during those laps, since they don't count, you can go ahead and pit. They go in, and I don't know what adjustment they made because it was really quick that they were back there. Maybe maybe put the wrench in the window somewhere and did something quickly because they went back there and then they come back out on the track. So they made an adjustment. He left it up to Ryan, but Ryan's like, yeah, might as well try something, right? So now we're restarting lap 140 here. P22, 1 lap down, 77 leading. The 97 takes the lead off the 77. That was kind of cool. And then we get a caution at lap 143 for the 9 car. So we are the lucky dog here.
And was this a spin or was this out of fuel 9 car? I can't remember.
No, this was the spin because I think the first guy that runs out of fuel is the 5, isn't it?
That's right. Okay, yes. This was a spin then, yeah.
This was a spin. So the P22 lucky dog here. The 97 leads, takes the outside. The 60 on the inside there. Ryan is P22 on the outside. And TV now mentions the fuel savings. Somebody was told to save fuel. Lap 143 here. There's a spin in front. The 11 and the 22, crunching the 11. They hit the 11, and it's like Jonathan says the nose looks all right. Ryan says the steering wheel's okay. They're up to 19.
How many incidents would this be now? Because he's in the one with the 23.
Yeah, that's at least
I think he's
3.
in at least one more. He spins out on his own. He gets in
3 or
this
4.
crash. I don't know what Jonathan did to the front of that car. But I remember back in the day they used to like reinforce. They don't do this anymore.
Yeah.
They like reinforce the car with like lumber and stuff. But man,
Yeah,
that thing survived so many
up in there.
so many hits.
Yeah. So the 60 is now leading here. Ryan taking the inside, at least restarting the lap 144. Right away we get a caution for the 54 and the 77 getting hit. The 97 had taken the lead back. The 17 and the 8 were involved. So for the next choose here, the 97 taking the inside, Ryan taking the inside, but he's all the way up to 9th at this point. So some of these things that have happened, he's carved his way right by them, right through them.
This is the moment,
right
how I just get that rant against timing and scoring. This is why I would like to say it's like a makeup call because all the track was blocked on the outside and Ryan just went to the inside and passed a whole bunch of people and just went all the way up to the top 10. And I was like, I'm good with that. That's okay. That's
yeah. And sometimes it's one of those things where, ask for forgiveness, not permission, right? Where you just go ahead and do it. And if they sort it out, or if they tell you to move, then you move. Right?
And they talk about it on the radio. Tim's going, he's like, hey, get up there, get up there. I don't know where those guys are going, but they don't belong there. And then they confirm it. And
usually behind the 48. Yeah, be behind the 48 or something like that. So restart lap 145 here. By lap 148, sorts out the P9. Lap 49, passing the 5 to get to 8th. At lap 152, we get a caution for the 5. We're P8. The 97 is the leader, and the 5 is out of fuel. And I want to go to the? Can we go on that rant now?
Well, I'll just set things up. So this was a 200 lap race. Yes, they're not supposed to, or 200 lap race. They're not supposed to count caution laps, even with the amount of laps they've done under caution. They still, if you started the race with the full tank of fuel, you should have made it to the end of this race. So I'll just say that. If you would have started with the full tank, you would have made it even with the caution laps that they ran.
Yeah, so the gamesmanship here is to make the car lighter. So I don't know how it would handle or handles different. Maybe because it's later in the run than other guys, it's better than other guys. Maybe the balance is set up a certain way because of that. But they even said it on the teardown. Screw them guys. Okay, you took the gamble. You took the gamble to do that. you pay for the mistake. Everybody else who didn't. So when he has to go fuel, he should lose a bunch of laps. There shouldn't be any of this later on bringing everybody in for fuel. Just my opinion. But that's also, and I've got another opinion about the tire thing here in a couple minutes too. So we're at like 152, 153 here, and the next shoe's the 97 on the inside. Ryan is P4 or in the fourth row on the outside. Sorry, restarting P3 here. We're behind the 23 by lap 155 up to P6. We passed the 88 and the 23 on that move. Lap 156. The 60 has taken the lead again. At lap 164, we get a caution for the 9, and we're P9. And this choose here, the 60 takes the top. Ryan takes the top row 3 here. Restart.
And the 9 was out of fuel.
Yeah.
in that
Yeah.
one. So
So
it's clearly this is a Hendrick Motorsports
thing.
issue, and I'm not sure when it happens, but they capture audio from I think Rudy Fugel telling William Byron, "Hey, you need to save."
That happened earlier. Then that's where I wrote that note.
Yeah.
That's that note I wrote earlier. I didn't know who it was, but that's when the broadcast started mentioning it.
Yeah,
because they overheard that.
So team's
at lap 166, we got a caution here for the 97. The 19 helped him. We're up to P3 getting through it. During this is when they pull them in for fuel only. And that's when I used the sound clip. I went immediately last night after the broadcast was over. I even texted you, says, I got to find the sound clip from that. That was funny. With Ryan sitting in the car talking about how his day went, because it was kind of like our day, right?
Yeah.
From watching.
So you want me to play it? I got it pulled up here.
Yeah, go ahead and play it.
Yeah, well, I wasn't having a lot of fun in the first 100, and then I didn't have any fun for about the next 50, and since then I've been having some fun.
So beginning, I was having some fun. Then I wasn't having any fun. Now I'm having fun again. And I thought that was the most hilarious thing to hear. He's just sitting there waiting for them to do whatever they're doing in the pit area. And, he went first 100 laps. Yeah. And the next 50, not so much. So
did we rant? Did we end up actually ranting on the field? What do you think it should have been optional? Do you think the guys that didn't, if they thought they were good, they could have stayed out and kept their track position, and then everybody else that went in could come out in that order and get spots back based that way? Like, I just didn't like how everybody just came down. If
you had to fuel and you did it during a caution, that's fine. You go in and you fuel and you lose whatever position tail end of the field. It's a red flag lap, so that you wouldn't lose the lap, but you would lose position. So if you were running 5th, now all of a sudden you're tail end of the the longest line, still on that lap, but
I think it's fine if 10 cars go in, they come back out in order of priority where they went in.
Right.
But no, you don't get second back or wherever you were. So it was just frustrating. And the 19's crew chief, who knew they had plenty, and he's also a very animated guy, especially with his choice of words, basically said, this is absolute BS what's happening right now. Of course it had to be Hendrick Motorsports, and it had to be, Chase Elliott and Kyle Larson. So the tinfoil hat folks came out and said it's rigged and everything. And I wouldn't necessarily say that, but NASCAR, I think Brad Moran, who's the managing director, talked to the morning drive show and let them know that said, we thought we were in a bad position here. We had run so many caution laps. So just, we thought it was, for the sake of the race and the competitors, we let them all come in and fuel up. That was their kind of official statement this morning. And it's like, I still think you just leave it up to the teams. And the ones that, because there's ones that knew that they filled up with fuel before the race and they were going to be fine. And then there's these other ones, I'm sure they did math like all week long trying to figure out like the least amount of fuel they could put in and still make it. And it bit them in the end. So just if they're going to do a strategy like that, like you said, if it doesn't always play out, so you pay the consequences.
And this is where the other thing happened with the Seb Not Mistaken, right? It was during this break where he had put the slicks on. And actually, I guess from what I understand, he put them on during one of the cautions before. And so he ran like 5 or 6 laps on the slicks. And when they came in for this break, the officials caught it
Yeah.
and they went, "Oh no, you got to go back. We haven't declared." And I thought, you know what? That's a
They
mistake
should have.
too. They
Yeah.
should have just let, at that point when they all come in
Dry.
for gas,
Yeah.
they should have told them it's optional. You guys want to change right now? You can change, and left it up to the teams because they have done that under wet conditions before. That if teams felt like the groove was dried out and they wanted to change it, they let them change it. Same thing here. I think they should have let the teams, if they wanted to change the tires at that point and put the slicks on, up to them. If they felt it was dry enough, I think Brian would have done it. I think a lot of guys would have tried it. There might have been one or two that didn't, but that was the other thing that happened here. They almost have to over officiate. And these guys are adults. These teams have things figured out. They knew what kind of adjustment to make for the rain tires when they came in that one time, right? And it seemed to work. So they would adjust back. They put the slicks on. 2 or 3 guys stay on the wet. They try and drive on the outside line the rest of the race. Maybe they do well. Maybe you do better on the inside lane. Maybe you're running door to door with them for the next 20 laps because of it. Would have been fabulous. But no. Everybody was under the same thing. So everybody has to be under the same thing. And that's the same thing they did with the gas. And it's like kind of taking the integrity away from, I know it's an all-star event. It's kind of it's a show, but this is some of the things that tick people off too, about these things. They're doing too much for TV, so at this point, the 7 ends up going past Ryan when they get back on track. They determined that he was actually past Ryan at that time. So Ryan ends up P4 here. Now, this next choose, the 60 is the leader taking the outside. Ryan, the 19 takes the inside, and then the 7 takes the outside, and Ryan takes also. So he gives up road for what he feels will be, still racing in the wet area. The 24 ends up inside of him here. So we restart lap 166 here, and the 3 punts us a little bit, and we end up P5. At lap 174, we pass the 7 to get to 4th. The 60 is leading at lap 179. Pass the 19 to get to 3rd. And Tim says fastest car on the track. So now I'm thinking, we got 20 laps left here. Just, let them run these 20 laps. No more cautions here. We know what happens. We can get some consistency going. And then right away, 2 laps later, the 23 and the 77. So we get another choose cone here.
And I thought this was good because I thought the laps were winding down. The leader had gone out and gotten a pretty good gap on the field. I said, okay, one more restart. This puts Ryan within striking distance. He just needs to pass one more guy and then get to the leader and we'll be fine. But yeah, as we see, maybe running green to the end would have been the better thing for this car, not have another heat cycle on tires.
Well, here's another thing. We don't run green from this point either. We choose here 60 on the outside, 24 on the inside, Ryan on the outside, 19 on the inside. So we're in row 2 on the outside. At least restarting at lap 181. We're racing with the 24. We get clear of him in the all the way to 2nd. Okay. And then a caution for the 5 car. See, that's what I'm saying. Another 20 laps here from that point. But no, we get another caution.
5 knocks down the wall again this time and spins around, I think. So, yeah.
Yeah. So, Tim and Ryan discussing here, talking about the outside for this choose. So the 60 takes the outside. Ryan takes the inside. He decides, okay, I'm gonna try and race some heads up. 24 on the outside, 19 on the inside here. Restart lap 182 now, and now it goes green the whole way. So the 24 does pass us, trying to race with him door to door. Can't get past him. 60 gets out there pretty good. 60 ends up winning. Ryan ends up P3 though. So it was the best of times. It was the worst of times. But in the end, it was still a fun night to watch, especially with the in-car camera. Although they cleaned the windshield on the one side, but then when they cleaned the windshield on the side the camera was on, it didn't get very clean. I don't know what they used on the one side. They didn't use it on the other side.
It was better than it was with all the sleet on it. But and I think I did
Yes.
capture the video of them cleaning it off. I think I posted that
Yeah.
on our social stuff,
Yeah.
but it was kind of funny. But so what are we in this race? He's the last three, he's third, second, and third.
Third.
The story of the race last year was him racing from the back to the front, racing from that provisional position.
Mhm.
And then this one he went from the back or the middle to the front to the back to the middle to the back to the front, and had a chance again. But man, he's
Yeah.
gonna. And then the 2021 clash on the road course was on his way to victory, and good buddy Chase Elliott crashes him in like one of the last turns. Doesn't win it himself. Kyle Busch wins it. He's
Yeah.
gonna win this race eventually, right?
Sooner or later, you got to get one in. Maybe they have to go to another country, right? There were two things on social media today, and one of them was about they should move it back to Daytona, move the Clash back, and I'm not of that mind. I don't know how else to say it, but I like the fact they've decided to try and do other things in other places and include all the teams. Because when you look at the basic of what the Clash used to be, it was only the pole winners from the previous season. I can remember Dave in one of them
Mhm.
in the 2023 Wheeling car because he had won the pole the year before.
Rockingham, I think, in the 77.
Yeah, yeah, or something, right? So, and that was a unsponsored car or whatever. But yeah, so I mean, that was all it was. So it was only 10, 15 guys out there, and it was a short sprint and
Short race, no pit stop.
short
Like,
race. So, and it was the week before that, it was like the Saturday of the week before. So it was only like 8 days before the 500. But by doing it this way and being 2 weeks before that, you get a little bit of a build up and so forth. And the 3 years of the Coliseum were great. I think they should get one more year with Bowman Gray. And between now and Bowman Gray next year, figure out a place to go the year after that and do that for 2 or 3 years. Let's get to places that we don't normally go to. I heard somebody mentioning Seattle. The baseball stadium is indoor. So they built something inside a football stadium before. How
Mhm.
cool and what could they do inside of a baseball stadium? On top of in an indoor facility like that in the Great Northwest, right? So that was the first thing. And then I thought, NASCAR Channel's been showing all this old stuff last year, and one of the things was they went to Tokyo at one point
Yep.
years ago.
They may have
I don't
gone
remember
twice, but yeah, they
twice. Yeah, I think it was 2 different years, right? So why aren't we doing that? We figured out how to do that way back then. Why aren't we doing that? How about Australia? We've got a guy who drove supercars over there. He's from New Zealand, but in our sport now, and we had Marcos Ambrose back in the day and so forth. So why not, do that? Brazil has been mentioned time and time again. So something was boiling under their surface there that they want to do. Bowman Gray would be great for the All-Star race, to tell you the truth.
fantastic.
I know there's who has the rights to the All-Star race and what company and this and that, but I could see an All-Star race there because here's the best part about Bowman Gray having an All-Star race. You know how they trick up the All-Star race with segments and all these different things?
Mhm.
Wouldn't have to do it. Wouldn't have to do
Yeah.
it.
Nope.
Wouldn't have to do it. Just let's make it a 200 or 300 lap race for the All-Star race, in the middle of late May, and do that. So there's a lot of different things they could do and have some fun with. And this whole like going back to Daytona thing was just one thing with a bunch of couple loud people again, couple loud people. It wasn't that many people who really want the status quo when really truthfully they've already tried different things. They spent a lot of money to go to the Coliseum 3 years in a row and build a track inside of a stadium. So they proved that it can do it. They're doing a road course on a naval base this year, right? They're doing all that infrastructure. So yeah, I just can't wait to see something different. So yeah, give it one more year. Maybe the weather will be better next year. Now they know what to do if certain things happen again, right? And let's go to Japan or Australia. I'd really like to see them go to Australia.
Yeah. I mean, this is just a classic move by the fan base, and I don't want to sound negative, but this is what happens. Like people are already forgetting how much they loved it last year. And I said this at the top of the show. the weather was pretty good. It was warm, relatively warm during the day, got into like I think 30s and 40s at night, but it was clear. The racing was great. Everybody loved it. Everybody loved the atmosphere. It was packed. I mean, you didn't get that this time because it was delayed so long and they gave certain people discounts or refunds. So not everybody was there for this race.
Yeah.
From what I understand, I think now NASCAR has the lease on Bowman Gray as a facility in general, but I think they also have a contract with the town itself that's probably multi-year, like 5 years or so. I think they definitely at least go back for a third year of this next year, like because they've been doing things in threes: Chicago, the Coliseum here. That does open up this possibility if they negotiate with Marcus Smith and SMI, like to move an all-star race there. Maybe that will go with that contract. Maybe that's okay as long as they have some sort of an event there. The people wanting it to come back to Daytona again, selfishly, I'd love it. I'm nearby. It gives me another race to go to. We went to multiple Clash races. It was really cool because what they would do, it was called different things at different times, but they would do they moved Daytona 500 pole qualifying to the day, and then the Clash would follow in like the afternoon, evening. So it was a really cool day because you get to go down there and watch. You see all the drivers, everybody on track, and then you get to watch a little bit of a race, and then come home, and then go back a few days later for the 500. So I'd be okay with it. But the last one we went to on the oval, and this has been brought up a lot as the race was postponed, and then obviously after, Eric Jones won the race where only 6 cars finished. His car looked like it had raced at Bristol and been wrecked about 7 times. It was not a good race at all. The next year, obviously we were in the middle of the pandemic, but the next year they took it to the road course. I talked about that. Ryan almost won the race until the last lap. And then they picked it up and moved it to LA, and then they've moved it here. So I'm fine with it moving around as well. I think they need to keep Bowman Gray somehow in the series,
In the mix.
or in the ecosystem, in one of the top 3 series. Maybe find a way to run a points race for the truck series or something like that. Would be cool because they could do that. They run standalone truck races other places where they don't have live pit stops, so it could work there. They do the same with what is now the O'Reilly Auto Parts series. When they have standalone races, they don't always bring pit crews with them as well, but I think the trucks could be something that could be cool there, but probably not. I'm fine with Bowman Gray. It's really cool. Is it smart to have a race in February in that part of the country? Again, this was unprecedented. They got more snow here than they've gotten in a decade. Like normally when they get snow there, they get like an inch. So most of the time you would just be dealing with cold. And people forget, like today here in Florida, the last 2 days, it's been raining. So yes, when it would have run on Sunday, it was relatively nice outside, though rather cold. People forget easily how much it rains in Florida, even this time of year. So.
What's the weather like in Mexico this time of year?
That's good. Yeah, you never know.
Let's go back to Mexico. The reason I'm not even sure the real reason why they're not back in Mexico this year.
World
Some
Cup.
scheduling, logistical things. Is it World Cup? Is that what it really comes down to? So let's maybe get the Clash in Mexico for a couple of years. Go back that way. We're going back. I think the international thing is an important thing. I know a lot of the drivers love to go to these tracks because those tracks are Formula One tracks. We're putting a NASCAR car on a Formula One track and doing fun things with it. So if we went overseas or we went to these other places, that's the type of tracks we'd be looking at. So the Mexico logistical nightmare that it was for all the teams. If you make it just the Clash, and all of a sudden you're just talking about the Cup Series, not talking about any other series having to go down there, and you're giving them 2 weeks to do everything. They have a whole week to get back here and not have to rush and try to trade drivers and find other drivers and find other trucks. So it might work out logistically good for that too. Just like having to ship cars overseas. So I'm just a lot of thoughts and ideas. I really. Like I said, it's the loud few. I'm going to start calling them that because, for the most part, you don't see anybody get online and say, "Oh, it should be at these other 5 countries." No, the first thing anybody does and gets online and does is they go, "Oh, they should go back and get rid of." And it's like, you're just the loud few. There's a lot of people that really thought it was entertaining, enjoyed it. I put those polls out, and the people enjoyed the race, even with all the goofy things that happened. My little polls don't have a lot of people on them, but everybody seemed to enjoy the race. So that's maybe it's my world, maybe it's my ecosystem, but
So that's where we are. That's our recap of the Cookout Clash at Bowman Gray Stadium. Ryan Blaney and the 12 team finished P3. Again, I think their third straight top 3 finish in this race, still have yet to win it in the end. So again, if this was your first time listening, you got a little bit of a taste of our weekly race recap when it comes to the NASCAR Cup Series and Ryan Blaney. Also encourage you to tune in every week. Most Mondays, we're recording around 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. We do it live. We'll stream live on Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok most weeks when it's working for us. And then we also will upload an audio version of this you can listen to as a podcast on your morning drive or whenever else you would choose. And then everything is also archived video-wise on our YouTube channel. So if you check out Team Blaney on YouTube, you can find all of our race recaps. You can find a listing of just some of the live shows that we've done here and there throughout the week, throughout the last couple of years. And then also you'll find a tab on there where you can look at the interviews that we've done on this show. And again, if you're new to the show, over the last few years, we have interviewed nearly every member of Team 12, from crew chief Jonathan Hassler to the driver Ryan Blaney himself multiple times, to every member of the pit crew as well. You can find out things about them, members of the road crew, engineers, hauler drivers, other people in the industry like in PR and marketing and other podcasts. I mean, the Ryan Blaney Family Foundation has sent representatives as well to come and talk to us. So look for those on our YouTube channel if you're looking for some content to consume ahead of the racing season as it starts here. So definitely encourage you to check that out and follow along with us throughout the year. You can find us on social media as well, and most places too. So got the opportunity here to kind of knock the dust off your pen and take some notes, and hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, next week, next Monday, we're planning on doing a show next Monday, like a season preview, Daytona week preview, basically. And then if you're following here, especially with TikTok, we try to do a little bit here and there during the week sometimes. The third member of our team, Kate, my wife, Kate, will want to do, sometimes we'll do some stuff during the week. So keep an eye out for that. That stuff kind of pops up accordingly. Next Thursday will be the duels. What's Wednesday's qualifying itself. Thursday is the duels. So who knows? We might pop in Friday real quick and do something, depending on how that goes. But definitely Monday nights. And like I said, we'll start off this Monday with a season preview, predictions sure to go wrong, I guess. And we'll get it rolling here. This going to be exciting. All these different things this year.
Yeah. Season 6 of the Team Blaney podcast ideally is going to be a fun one, and hopefully ends up with another championship to celebrate at Homestead this year. So thank you everyone for tuning into this episode of the Team Blaney podcast. During the week and on race day, you can find us on Facebook, X, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Just search for Team Blaney. We'd also like to encourage you to support the Ryan Blaney Family Foundation. Ryan's official charitable organization benefits brain health causes like UPMC Sports Medicine and the Alzheimer's Association. To learn more, visit ryanblaneyfamilyfoundation.org or follow them on Facebook, X, and Instagram. So, for my co-host Steve Mez, I'm Adam Rogers. We'll catch you next time right here on the Team Blaney podcast.
Good night, Winston-Salem.